Yeah, if you can.
Yeah. I guess so it's recording on your end also. Or is
I
it
don't
just
know.
me?
I don't think so.
Because my record button's, yeah, it's showing that I'm recording.
Okay, I know you're recording. I don't know, think I am. I don't know how to do it. It's all
Oh.
good.
All right. Well, welcome back to the Outskirts podcast with Tanner and friends. I'm Tanner, and we're back with my friend William Ramsey of William Ramsey Investigates. How's it going, William?
Very well. Thanks for having me back. It's good to be with you again.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming back. And the topic that we're going to be addressing is one that's been in the news for about 70 years off and on. But it's back to the forefront again, and that is the JFK assassination. Um, I and most of the people in my circle are kind of aware that something isn't quite as it's been reported as far as that goes. The narrative has been for the longest time that it was Lee Harvey Oswald from the observatory. Um, but that just it didn't seem to take, right? No, from the onset, people had a hard time swallowing that, and you're here to kind of discuss the evolution of that case. And as a researcher yourself, you haven't written a book about this yet, but I feel like maybe one's coming or should be.
I don't know. I
You've
probably
in,
could. I probably could at this time. I've
yeah,
interviewed so many of the researchers, some of the long-term researchers, and read many of the books and looked into some of the files, even the things that have been slowly declassified or come out of the government up until like this most recent tranche, which was March 18th, 2025, where a lot were declassified. A lot of things that were redacted were unredacted. But I know a lot about the JFK assassination, and I definitely do not think that Oswald even pulled the trigger to kill JFK. So I don't even think he was involved. I mean, he was a patsy, like he said, like famously. There's a video of him saying, "I'm a patsy,"
yeah, I've
and
seen
I
that.
think he was right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, kind of in preparation for this, just to reacquaint myself with some of the theories, I rewatched the documentary "Everything's a Rich Man's Trick." Are you aware of that one?
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a while, but yeah. I thought it
Yeah,
was mostly about 9/11, but yeah.
well, it's a 3 hour, but it hums in on JFK for about 45 minutes, I think. And it concludes basically it implicates Harriman, Brown, Bush, Dulles, and sort of the uh, military industrial complex that arose out of World War II. It kind of it basically said, they created the CIA, and the CIA was complicit in the assassination, and the reasons behind which were we'll let you talk about that. But anyway, that's kind of the gist of what I've been exposed to. That and a great book called Unspeakable, which it's been a couple of years since I read that book, but I know you have read it probably several times and you're familiar with it. The author is Douglas.
Douglas,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a. Do you recommend that book?
100%, yeah. JFK and the Unspeakable. That's what it's. I actually have it in the slides that you have set up. I have a reference to it, but I
Oh,
think it's one of the
fantastic.
more important books, one of the best research, and one of the most readable. So, I think that credit to him. It's a very well sold book, and some of the other JFK books are more dry, but I definitely recommend that one. Actually, quoted in my last night show when I did a show about the other attempted assassination of JFK, which was going to take place in Chicago on November 2nd, 1963. So there were other, and there was actually another one in Miami. So
You
there
see, that
were,
was the first I'd heard of that. I imagine most people don't know there. Yeah, that's just not in that's not common knowledge, I would say. What do you think? You think most people know that there were multiple attempts on his life?
no, no, I don't think so. I don't think it's really covered in the mainstream press. And I think that's kind of like one of the mysteries of JFK is why is there so many stories and so many news media and things like that putting out this story that it was Oswald and Oswald alone and leaving all these other kind of things left out, much like the Valet case, which is very eerie and very strange because the so-called shooter who's armed with a rifle, like Oswald supposedly was, um, had the same kind of background as Oswald, a very strange background, and was also in I think the Marines and stationed at Air Force bases in Japan after the war. If you remember, we occupied Japan. And so into the 50s, and there was the war in Korea from 50 to 53. This guy Belay was in the war. So he almost had this very strange parody with Lee Harvey Oswald. It's really unbelievable.
And this was the Chicago would-be
This was the
assassin?
attempted right, and it's kind of strange too because Oswald kind of moved across. He was in New Orleans, and this woman who he lived with, Payne, picked him up in New Orleans and moves him into Dallas in '63. And this guy Valet does the same thing. He's actually in Long Beach. I mean, in Long Island, in New York. He makes his way to Chicago and is just there on time. The reason it didn't take place is that there was foreknowledge that was came to JFK, and he didn't go. The cover was he had a mild cold, but he didn't actually go to Chicago. So all the things that were supposed to take place didn't. And this guy Belay was arrested, but it is a kind of interesting side story.
Yeah,
And
I guarantee most of my friends have no idea about that. Yeah. So
that's
so
kind of one of
just
the things that captures the imagination of JFK research. It really is its own kind of saga, its own story and unraveling of facts and evidence in conjunction with a lot of dis and misinformation. And some of it, I believe, the dis and misinformation is intentional from the government or people associated with the government who have a narrative. And then some people who may not have done all their research don't deliberately kind of muddy the waters, but I think they do. But there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot going on with JFK. But the story, when you kind of take apart what the story government's telling you, the story, which is uh, Oswald was on the sixth floor of the book depository in Dealey Plaza with a Mannlicher Carcano rifle and had three miracle shots and the magic bullet and all this other stories and all the things that are left out in the Warren Commission. Once you realize, maybe, well, for me, that it's all been tampered with, it's not accurate, then you have to ask the question: who can do it, and why did they do it? Why would they put this thing together where they could manipulate things? And this ties into this JFK release that happened on March 18th, because it's an unveiling and unraveling of some connections that the public didn't know, and even some of these researchers, great researchers who I've interviewed, didn't know either.
so can we just kind of identify sort of the key major um, suspects, I guess? So we have Oswald. Then we have people who want to pin it entirely on the mafia and suggest that
Right,
perhaps the mafia operates independent of the federal government, which it seems
right.
more likely that if the mafia involvement would have been as a result of a collusion of the government and the mafia,
I
correct?
think so. Yeah, I think so. And it's seen, but like that's a part of the unraveling of some of these characters. The mafia was seen as, like you said, independent, but you realize these guys are working together. They're gun running against Castro. Rosselli and Trafficante are involved in this things going down in Miami that involve bigwigs from the CIA. So it's really is shocking that there was much more of a fusion of their interests together. And it makes sense because they're both kind of involved in underground activities, trafficking, gun trafficking, things like that.
And as
But
far as motivation and as far as PR for the federal government, for this, let's call them the CIA or the state, it makes sense to me that they would be happy to to use the mafia as sort of a front for all of the illicit activity, because then we have a ready bad guy. Everyone already knows the mafia are bad. So if they can just say, yeah,
right.
well, shame on you, mafia, it's sort of like it's a ready-made fall guy. Um,
It's interesting you say that, because what you just said ties into some of the slides. If we get through all the way to the end, it shows that the CIA is using these fronts that you would think is just a normal corporation, but they're using them as fronts for intel operations. So even the CIA, even the guys from the mafia may not know what's going on, what the real designs of the CIA is to use them. They may just be puppeteered or whatever. So there may be other agendas for use, like you said, for using the mafia to keep at arm's length. And I think the CIA was very good at these kind of intel mechanics where you don't really know who's doing. There's all kinds of strange fronts and strange agreements, and it's all compartmentalized. Even the people at the CIA didn't know. And there's that kind of famous statement by Joe Pesci, who played David Ferry in Oliver Stone's JFK, where he says it's like a riddle wrapped into an enigma inside of a mystery. And I think that's the way it is. If you're a very skilled intel agent, I think that's the point.
Yes. And let's not delve into this, but I can't help but think of the CIA using the cartel and in the future generation, right? For um, well, yeah, they have a
There's
history of
all
doing that
kinds
sort of
of
thing.
we know that. We know
Yeah,
that there's correct connections between the CIA or Intel and guys who ran the docks and Lucky Luciano. So there's clear overlaps between Intel, even like British Intel too, like MI5, MI6 with mafia figures.
that's
So
part
this
of
is
their MO.
yeah,
It's
this is established.
yeah.
This isn't speculative at all. There's actually a famous picture of the guy who wrote James Bond with Lucky Luciano, like they were buddies hanging out together. What's the guy who wrote not Irving? It's
Yeah.
I can't remember the
Friend of
author.
Aleister Crowley, right? Where,
Well, that Ian Fleming, who
Fleming.
knew
Yeah.
Crowley. Yeah, yeah, he
Yeah.
knew.
Okay. Boy, that's another
Yeah, it's
that's another
another
path to
weird
go down.
connections that you wouldn't
Yeah.
believe, but yeah.
Well,
So
let's go ahead and delve into your research here and let's let you get started.
this is like so you can see the titles of this. This is the specially unredacted documents that were just dropped into the public, and you can see it right on the title there. 2025 release under the President John F. Kennedy Assassination Records Act of 1992. But it was really part of this D-class thing that was signed by an executive order by Trump. So it was Executive Order 14176. And so you'll see how they numbered the documents on the upper left. But this one's an interesting one because a lot of these are kind of, they're not like you found this huge gold nugget, but it just indicates certain things. This one, if you scroll down, you'll see that they were talking about this is from 1996. They're talking about quelling a story or stopping a story about Oswald being a member of the CIA. So they're like definitely involved in like we don't want this information to hit the media. CIA related story from surfacing in Japan, thereby prompting Japanese journalists to pursue the same information. And it is Commander Jet that Oswald was recruited by CIA while stationed with the Marines in Japan in the 1950s. So like this is like they're saying we don't want that story to get out. And so like the fact that Oswald was a CIA asset early in the 50s, I think is very telling.
It's
Like he
very telling.
yeah.
What's the statistical likelihood of that? And just the average person can say, well, that stinks, right?
Absolutely. When the guys who are involved and like people are upset are like when Kennedy infamously fired Alan Dulles after the Bay of Pigs, right? So he took one on the chin from Kennedy, and then he's the head of the CIA, and has his connections are incredible. Like Dulles was actually involved in the plot to kill Hitler, and so like this is a big time player. Like Dulles is not a rookie or some kind of guy wet behind his ears. Like he was actually the station chief for the OSS in Switzerland and involved in all kinds of really incredible stuff that you wouldn't even believe. Money transferences, Himmler trying to kill Hitler. This guy Javisius. I mean, that's a whole nother show in itself, but it's just the fact of Dulles's history actually goes back to the Treaty of Versailles, like he and his brother.
Wow.
Like they
Yeah.
are really part of the Gilded Age. I think that he died in the 70s, but what Dulles, when he got fired, like that was kind of the beginning of, I think, their attempt to kill Kennedy. Like they were going to go and get him because he was really Kennedy was kind of one of them. He was and wasn't. So he was obviously part of the Kennedy dynasty. Joe Kennedy was a ambassador to the court of St. James's Court in England. So they had kind of like a almost, gilded sensibility to them, but they were Irish and Catholic. So they weren't quite the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants that some of these
Mhm.
other ruling class people were. And I think that there was a rivalry too. Like they saw themselves as rivals to the Rockefellers and some of these other people. So I think maybe some of the decisions that they made that affected these guys, particularly at the Bay of Pigs, um, they was seen as a competitive. I think that it was a personal like, and I think that's why they blew his head off. Like people on the inside know that the story's baloney. Like I've talked to them. Well, I've had conversation with people are like they know the real story. They know who that they killed him. They know that this is an intel story. And I think the more you research the JFK, you realize Oswald is an asset. He's being puppeteered. He dies at 24. He's a fairly young guy. And he's associated with so many strange characters. He was in this kind of Air Force, this kind of civilian air patrol. Excuse me, they called it CAP. And he was in there with David Ferry, who's all over this whole story of JFK, and was there. Like flew to, like if it's just Oswald, why is Ferry flying to Texas or going to Houston on the day after the assassin? Like there's just so many moving parts of these people. I mean, and David Ferry was a confirmed CIA agent, not an asset, not a contract agent, but literally another CIA agent, a domestic agent.
Company
And
man. Is that what they
company
call?
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So he's over there with another guy who's probably another CIA. Oswald thinks he's on the up and up. He never thought he was going to be a patsy, probably
Poor
till the
guy.
last minute. Yeah, he thought he was just doing what he was told, and then they treacherously turned on him. And he was supposed to probably die that day. He was supposed to die November 2nd, so they could pin it on him. And I think that there was a bungle and a mess up, and they didn't kill him. They tried to kill him when they captured him at the Texas theater. Actually, there were shots fired. It's often left out of the record, but I think they were trying to kill him the whole time, and that's why Ruby had to kind of come in and take one for the team and kill him, and so that there can never have been a trial that would come out to be a patsy. So I mean, they had to kill him, and then Tippit was literally executed. J.D. Tippit was a police officer who died the day of the assassination, who was acting very strange, had very strange connections, and they put 3 bullets in his chest and one in his head. So he knew something, or he may have been the one who was supposed to kill, like be the hero and kill Oswald, and that was going to be the story, or something went on. But
They
the
had to tie
assassin,
up that loose end. Yeah.
yeah, somebody had made a decision on the fly and said Tippett's got to go.
Yeah.
Killed him.
So again, this these players, we mentioned Dulles. Earlier, I mentioned Harriman, Brown brothers, and like the Bushes. Are these people all in places of power and influence during this time?
Absolutely, absolutely,
And is this who we're
absolutely.
talking about? When Eisenhower talks about the military industrial complex, is he pointing to that group of people?
I think in part, I think a lot of these guys had a lot of like very powerful people had defense businesses or contracts. You'll see that with like Whitney, who was part of these groups. They also had deep kind of social ties and social groups, whether it's the Pilgrim Society or other clubs or backgrounds at elite universities. So they all are very networked and very powerful with a lot of money and a lot of friends like Luce and Time. And you see these kind of strange things with different players showing up. Like Luce shows up, offers all this money for the Zapruder film, and then it doesn't come out for a long time,
And it comes out edited.
edited, strange, right? So the
Yeah.
original, though nobody knows where the original is, it's clearly been edited or something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there was another video, I can't remember the name of it, that like somebody came in and bought, and that was never made it into the public. So you see this kind of control of the narrative, the informational narrative over time that also is shown by kind of this. This is a 1996 document saying we cannot let this story get out that Oswald was recruited by the CIA while stationed with the Marines, right? So you see this long term oversight. And that's what some of the people who may be on the fence, like, well, maybe Oswald did do it. That's some of the facts they leave out is like somebody's maintaining that this guy is a disgruntled, commie loving person, which I think on the surface makes sense. He went,
Somebody's maintaining the lie and
yeah,
putting it
yeah.
forth.
Yeah, he went to Russia, so obviously he's like seen as a defector. But when
Yeah.
you realize how he got to Russia and how he came back and had no punishment or anything like that, you have to go, well, why is that? Because during the Cold War, if you defected to Russia, you'd be seen as a traitor. Maybe they put you in jail, but he didn't get prosecuted. So you see these strange things that happen with all, I mean, just so much high strangeness in all these cases and why certain people aren't prosecuted and why Oswald had this kind of almost like he just couldn't get in trouble. That's what's weird is like he was always like there was something special about him. I don't know what it was, but um he was like curated or something like an item.
They
And
were
all these
preserving
people
him for his future role. Yeah.
they didn't know. I mean, he was an asset of some part. I don't know what it was, but like Morley, who we'll talk about here, Jefferson Morley, knows Angleton. He wrote a book about Angleton. Um, and
This is
Angleton,
what was Angleton's role?
well, Angleton was the head of the CIA, I think. I mean, he was old, but he was very. These guys all fused themselves in World War II. So all these guys fought against the Nazis and then became anti-communists in the Cold War, and they were all kind of on board. And Angleton was one of them. And I think he was either the head of director of operations or something, but he was always a kind of a big wig, and he had the Oswald folder. So like he within the CIA, some of the other documents couldn't be found, but they could be found because Angleton had them. So he was almost like Oswald was so special that Angleton was handling Oswald by himself. It's really wild.
That indicates foreknowledge of his
Of
role.
something,
Yeah.
of something. There may be other people that were as special as Oswald or were assets, but like Oswald, people who knew this guy, Harvey kind of knew him, who was another big wig at the CIA, operations guy. And so there's something going on at the CIA. I don't know if anybody's ever clarified it, but there's something going on in the CIA where they know this guy Oswald. There's doubles, there's strange like misspellings about Oswald. That's one of the simplest techniques of like obfuscating somebody is like misspelling names, Ozwald. Like there's just really unclear things about Lee Harvey Oswald. There's like Harvey Lee Oswald. It's really weird.
Yeah, they intentionally muddy the waters.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, so are we ready to scroll down here?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
So here's Angleton again. Angle as the sole gatekeeper. All Israeli related intelligence were filtered through him alone. I think he was the head of counter intel. There's a whole like it's weird story. I mean, he became kind of like he was a pro-Israel. So I wouldn't call him a Zionist. He wasn't Jewish, but he was pro-Israel, and they gave him like a placard or a bench or something in the holy city in Jerusalem. But like these are just elements. Like this is Ezra, Shadow of Ezra. He controlled stuff, so he was like a control freak, controlling flow of intel to the FBI, carefully scrubbing reports to ensure that Israeli intelligence never directly name a covert operation hidden in plain sight. So
I actually have a friend who I told her we were going to be talking about JFK, and she said, ask him about Israeli involvement.
yeah.
And then that was kind of all she said. I don't know where she's coming from, but
There's a lot of Jews around kind of his death, and there's a lot of issues around JFK. He was against the nuclear program for the Israelis, which was they were trying to create a bomb in Dimona. And a lot of that, and the ties to Angleton too. The plutonium, I mean, you can trace plutonium, it has its own signature, and this fissile material has its own signature, and it came out of a place outside of Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania. So a lot of this, there was an operation that Angleton knew about that some very high, I mean, some of the people, I think one of them became prime minister. some very high-end Mossad intel people were involved in getting this fissile material to Israel so they could build a bomb. And they call it the Samson option. They were always concerned. I mean, they've been at war since the beginning, right? Arab-Israeli wars and stuff. They were concerned at one point that they could be overrun by an Arab army of whatever country they were fighting against. And so their solution was the Samson option where they could go nuclear. So it was like one of the kind of core designs of the Zionist kind of Zionist creation of Israel was to make sure they could go nuclear,
Part
which
of
they
their
do.
defense strategy. And
Yeah, and
yeah,
it kind
they're
of
there
goes
now.
in. Yeah, Dimona is the place where their nuclear stuff is, and there was a guy, Vanudu or something, who was a whistleblower, and then Robert Maxwell was involved in solving that problem, making sure that guy got arrested. I think that's a whole nother story.
Wow.
So Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell, yeah. So this all this spy stuff
Yeah. Wow.
goes all the way to Epstein, yeah. But I mean, you have to see. I mean, if you go back to the original thing about JFK, he was going to the trade mart. He was supposed to be attending this trade mart, and there were a couple Jewish bigwigs there, and almost all the Jews are like Zionists. So uh, he was he was ruffling feathers. There's no question about it. JFK and RFK were ruffling feathers about kind of like Jewish involvement, Jewish things that are happening in Israel, and they were kind of affecting those policies.
And the main obstacle that he presented to them was he wanted dearmament. Was that it? He was kind of pushing
I
for
think he was a,
dearmament.
I think he was genuinely a peacemaker. He was giving speeches. The American speech was like a total peace, peace between and détente between the U.S. and Russia. And he was disarmament. Yes, he was very much into disarmament. So I think that he was trying not to overarm Israel, and they didn't perceive it that way. So
Yeah.
it was
Again,
it's like everything's kind of for them. They're on the edge, like they're surrounded by enemies. So their
yeah,
sensibilities are different. Um,
right. You can kind of understand that angle. You can even kind of forgive it. But as far as the industrialists and the military complex that is just profit driven, seemingly, that's much more disgusting, in my
It is
view.
disgusting, and they did make money. So once JFK died and the war spigot started in Vietnam, all those people with defense stocks made millions, including Johnson. So
Yeah,
LBJ was kind of like his a lot of his bread and butter was from defense stuff that took place in Texas. He's always on the take and bribing and stuff. I think when he died, he had some crazy amount of money like that was unaccounted for, much like all the other politicians in the U.S. today. But like he was worth $80 million or something. So he was always on the take. But yeah, the spigots were open after JFK. Could have been seen as kind of like uh, you know somebody who was going to stop the party of all the money that they were making and the government grants and stuff and the like you said, the military's big business, the Cold War's taking place. We got both the Dulles brothers were like full into nuclear, creating nuclear bombs and missiles and all that stuff in the 50s. Like I think John Foster said like nuclear bombs are more bang for the buck. Like he was so when they see a guy like Kennedy, it's like it's not just like an ideological thing, it's a financial, concern. And a lot of what you'll find in a lot of it's corrupt, but a lot of these politicians have stocks or family holdings in defense. So what they call it's really armaments, but yeah. And so I think that Kennedy's saying, yeah, you're not going to make as much money. And so
yeah.
that might have raised the stakes why they wanted to kill him.
War is a racket, man. Right?
And
It's
there's no accounting because we're at war. We need more money from the public. We need. I mean, look at how much was spent in Iraq, or some of these other, or the war against terror, or whatever. Like, it's just an incredible moneymaker if you're in that. I mean, so some of these people are willing to transmogrify human lives into money, And you see it in Ukraine. You see it in Russia. Like, we're literally in a world war. The U.S. is involved in fighting against Russia. The American people can't get a clue. They have no idea how dangerous the situation is. But like, we're the ones financing that war. They just had a huge New York Times article that came out and said as much, that a lot of this stuff and all this warfare, they literally thought they were going to invade Russia and take over Crimea. Like, that was their goal. They failed. But a lot of that stuff is your tax dollars and my tax dollars at work. It's disgusting. And there's millions of people dead in graves in Eastern
Yeah.
Europe now because of it. We don't
Yeah.
see it because we have a controlled media. Like, we're not free at all. Like, the whole thing of Land of the Free is a complete dark, evil joke, because our government's involved in censoring all this information from us. Because if they showed us how much money they're blowing on this war, people would be outraged and they wouldn't want it. They'd want it to stop, but they're kind of in this kind of psycho-civilized state, so they
And if
don't
you want to,
understand.
if you want to understand, like they can't get their head around it. Like, well, who,
No,
what's the incentive? If you want to understand how the pockets are being lined, can you look back to World War II and say, well, Standard Oil fueled the Luftwaffe, right?
right.
Ford built their
Lord,
trucks.
right.
Uh, Harriman Brown, Dulles funded, right? They were in banking, and so it's like,
Brown Bank, Harriman, all the Bushes are
yeah,
involved
the
in
book.
that stuff.
So yeah, they're instigating and fueling the war, and then
The wars all the way up to the present. So what
yeah,
Kennedy was up against, people are like, these files are not like Ben Shapiro is a totally toxic black propagandist. He's like, why does this matter? It couldn't matter more in the context of what's happening. What he was doing was saying, I want detente, I want the Russians to back down. He's sympathizing in what they went through in this speech in World War II. He acknowledges their losses against the Nazis. He says they're people too. They want to breathe the same air. They want the lives of their children. And that's is what's happening right now. Like, where the US is putting that at risk. We, with our tax dollar, this is supposedly a Christian country too, which is like a joke too. Like, everything's a total joke. We're not free, and we're more closer to slaves if half your tax dollars are being taken away, and their government's giving your money to pedophiles and immigrants that uh, should be coming to you based upon your forefathers and stuff like that, which is the Biden administration, which really, that's all deception. But literally, like, that's, it's couldn't be more relevant right now what happened with JFK and what's in the JFK files. It's it should be on the news every night, all day, because
right,
it's happening right now. What Kennedy was up against is what Trump's up against. As the peacemaker, supposedly doesn't really look that good so far, but this is the same dynamic. So everybody out there, slap yourself in the face, read the JFK files, go back and see what happened to JFK. This is what you're up against. And the catastrophe of JFK dying led to millions of deaths, Vietnam War, 50,000 Americans, many more went insane, committed suicide, ended up in mental institutions, families destroyed. That's where we're on the precipice of. So
yeah,
wake up, snap out of it.
yeah, and
Ah,
again, it's
cool.
the same threat, nuclear annihilation, right? That's what's being dangled over our head, and it's almost
Right.
like it's like
That was the Cold War. That was the whole missile crisis. It's the
yeah,
same. When I say the same dynamic, I'm not exaggerating. We
yeah,
are at the precipice of a nuclear war. Putin has been saying ready the nuclear bombs from February 2022. It's been 3 years. These guys have incredible restraint. I don't understand them. Like, I don't hate the Russians. I don't have a bug against. I don't even know why we're fighting. It's some kind of greedy mindscape that's very demonic and evil and antagonistic. That's taken control of the left. Like, these are supposedly the good, like the empathetic good guys. What a joke. We are in the same circumstances right now. So the JFK files could not be more important. They're so important because the same thing's happening now. They tried to kill. There's like, this ties into the Valet thing, the multiple assassination attempts. They tried to kill Trump. They're probably trying to kill him again. So American people are in real trouble. You guys, I mean, people have they walk around and traipse around. They have no idea They're on that razor's edge, literally walking a tightrope right now. The
What do
whole
you think
country.
how do you think the country would respond if Bobby Kennedy Jr., you know, if he started every day, every weekday off by sitting on the steps of the Capitol with a sign that said, "Who killed my dad and who killed my uncle?" Or
I
like
think he's still asking
justice,
that. Yeah.
if he would just start every day off like that, you know, can there be a more important question
It's got to be
as
one
far
of the
as
most important questions for people in the United States.
yeah,
No
but it
question.
seemed we've been content to just let it live as even a joke. It's evolved to the point of a joke. I remember the Seinfeld episode, right? With Keith Hernandez spitting on Kramer and Newman. You know, it's like we're just okay with this mystery. Maybe because we've accepted it as a form of entertainment almost. But if we
It was a
understand the
here's a
stakes,
yeah, the stakes are really high, and it was a coup, and people who got too close in the investigation died too. So after JFK, November 22nd, there's like another 50 or 100 deaths, some which are brought up in these papers that actually aren't in the recent drops. But some people who said or knew too much died. People who knew Oswald dead. People who were cops dead. People surrounding the events died. Literally shot, tracked down, hunted down, and killed. So their stakes are huge. The stakes were huge back then. They knew it. It was a coup. So people can't comment. It's not just the killing of Kennedy. It's the changing of the entire policy and a new president with a total almost 180-degree outlook. LBJ was horrifically corrupt, man. He didn't care about peace.
so what
He didn't
about
care about.
every
He went
president?
insane, dude. LBJ. They cover all this up, but by the end of like the next term, they were like, "You got to quit. You're crazy. You're out of your mind." They spent millions of dollars on shrinks for LBJ. They keep this all quiet, but like the guy was like Macbeth. Like
Yeah,
he ascended to power and went crazy.
yeah,
Immense bloodshed, death, my lies. That's the other thing. Like these numbers, they don't have meaning. Like it's just like the savagery, like the psychological effects that have blown back into the American consciousness are tremendous when you see all these movies, whether it's Deer Hunter, Apocalypse Now, Full Metal Jacket. That was that's after JFK and under crazy person LBJ. Like these are direct consequences of reverberating dark culture for our present day. People don't get it.
wow, what an insight. I think that's really fascinating. I think you're right. Yeah, just the culture of death and war mongering for profit, and just using our young men for fodder, you know?
They were all
It
19.
yeah.
They were systematically selected from poor regions. Like if you go back, they were literally drawing these pools of kids who were like parentless from outside urban areas who didn't have college degrees. Like that's who went and died in Vietnam. Like it's incredible. Like they did it. Like these are wise men. They were called the wise men, but they were just let's get rid of our poor lower class kids. They're the ones who are going to fight the war and die. I think 5 people in Vietnam that were from Ivy League schools died. That's all.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just an incredible statistic.
So in the administrations moving forward from Johnson, still no disclosure, still no, it's not put to the forefront, it's still suppressed. The false narrative is still bolstered. How can we forgive that? I don't. I like to think that if I were in that position, I would have been the whistleblower, regardless of how soon, how close to the event or how many years removed from it I was, because it that event undermines so much of our culture and of our political process, and it just basically desperately needs addressing. It undermine if you're the president, if you're President Trump, it undermines your own authority and it
Very
undermines
true.
the validity of your influence and your power and all the things you've aspired to. Um, I don't understand why it hasn't been addressed properly.
they had these committees. There was the HSCA, House Committee Subcommittee on Assassinations. There was the Church Committee. There was a Rockefeller Committee, which was just kind of like a theater. But Church actually was an honest guy. And then they basically, I think they primaried him and he was out of office and then died of cancer. So, like, what kind of message is that? Like, oh, you're looking into these intel operations
Yeah.
and stuff. We're going to make sure you never become senator. Like
Yeah.
Church was a legit guy. I think he had a law degree from Stanford, and it was the senator from Idaho. So you got some guy from the sticks who's a flyover type against these, high-powered American aristocrats, and they basically ground him to powder. He was out the next year. He somehow, they can put the money, they can do it now. The APAC's doing it to everybody in Congress anyway. So this kind of tactic of like financing your opposition, they can fix the elections easily. I mean, they're still fixing stuff. So
So no one's come to power. No one's been in the Oval Office who wasn't compromised. No one's been there. That no one could accidentally have achieved that position who would be a threat to that narrative, the JFK narrative.
I think you're right. Yeah. And
That's
I,
very,
what are the stakes? Like Bush is involved, the family's involved in it of killing the Kennedys. Really, the Kennedys were seen as rivals. I think that's the larger issue, is a right left thing, not just ethnic, not just religious. But so I think that that solidified their power all the way till Bush, and then Obama's a relative of the Bush family. So
right.
you kind of like, that's under, and I mean, some of his speeches in 2008 were really incredible because he's acknowledging connections to the old Yaleys and stuff, and doing things in these speeches that somebody from that kind of power block be like, he's acknowledging us. So, and they let all the stuff that happened from 2001 to 2008 slide, So you're not free. This is not a free country anymore. It's definitely not. And you don't clown yourself into thinking you're free. You're not free at all. Not
So
when you don't have all the facts.
yeah,
And your politicians can be killed off, or if they don't kill you, they'll just go after your character. Like character assassination is probably more effective than like actually killing somebody. So
they use disclosure as a carrot on a stick. Is that true? You'd say that's true?
I think some of it. I mean, I think that well, if you want to talk about UFO disclosure, that's deception by disclosure, no question. That's just a bunch of
Yeah,
I can't believe people haven't keyed into that after they've been conned for so many decades. If you've been following that, like, this is a con. Where's the physical evidence? Where's the evidence?
right.
But I think some other disclosures are fake, and I think that even this disclosure, like I could defer to guys who know a lot more than me, like Jefferson Morley or McBride, who I've talked to. Like, this is an important event. This March 18th drop, because it's just validating certain things. It's giving a clearer picture of the tapestry, more pieces of the puzzle. So it's not like people are going to have this huge win where they find the Ark of the Covenant or something like that. But it's like, this is just more information where different ties can be put together, more connections can be made.
Strengthening correlations that we knew were there. We
Yes.
suspected were there, and now that's been confirmed. But you still don't have the full. It's like you're chasing this carrot, right? And you finally get a bite, and it's like, that part's rotten. You got to get further up. What how would you describe the disclosure this far? And
Disclosure of what? Of JFK files?
yes, yeah, of
Well, I
JFK
would,
files and
like I
truth.
said, like, these are the drops. I mean, there's actually been drops, my understanding. There's more after March 18th, and I think there's more to come. So I don't think this is just like the end of it. And I think there's other drops that are going to take place of RFK and MLK, which are all assassinations. Like, so this is just the beginning, and they can be seen independently, but I think they should be seen all together, the assassinations of the 60s. And probably even um oh shoot, Malcolm X, which was probably an FBI op, which you see the FBI meddling and all the stuff in J. Edgar Hoover, who's a very sinister character um in a lot of these deaths. But I think this is a step in the right direction. And you got to give kudos. And actually, I think that Jefferson Morley, in relation to this woman who's the head of this group, he really praised her. He really gave her. He said she's doing strong. So the task force for the declassification, he said like, oh yeah, she's doing a great job and she's strongly doing it, and I like the way she supports. So he's not criticizing, he's not saying anything negative, which is cool. And I think that this drop took place in the context of something like WikiLeaks, where like they didn't analyze, they're trying to figure stuff out. Like I don't think Luna's a special, like I really respect her. I think she's cool. But she doesn't know as much, and like, oh, we've got some good stuff. But they just dropped it to let the autists and the experts and the guys who've been researching for years just to go through it. And they're still going through it. Like it's only been 2 weeks. So I think it's positive. I think
It's
to
positive. Okay.
summarize it in a very
It's done in
simple
good
way,
faith. It's not a
I
diversion
think so.
tactic. It's not a trick. They're actually releasing information that you feel like it's an honest representation of how the events were recorded.
Unlike Epstein, which was a complete joke, that was the biggest embarrassment I've ever seen. And literal, like, I mean, some of this, like, you just don't know what these guys are thinking. Like, I know the Epstein files, like, I've done, you can go back through my archive in 2019, 2018. I've done so many shows. I've read so many documents, so many court cases of Epstein. When they put that out with the binders and these goofball influencers walking around like they had something, and then you read it and it's all redacted, like half it's redacted. You have to wonder, is this like a drop? Like, well, some of these, I'm not going to say their names, but like they're at the table in the White House. This is like that is deception by disclosure par excellence, in my opinion, that whole Epstein thing. So this is different. JFK disclosure, Epstein disclosure. But yeah, so it can happen. There's no question. The whole Epstein thing was they need to go through those documents, redact whatever names you want, or they can reach out to the people and say, is that okay if your name is in this? They could do that. So if they assent to this kind of privacy invasion, whether it's actionable or not, litigible, or somebody could sue them or whatever. If they give their approval, they should just put it out. I mean, a lot of those girls have come forward. Like a lot of their names are known because there was a fund from Epstein for all the kids that he raped, and those girls got payouts.
Hmm.
So anyway, so I think that these files are, we'll see what happens. We'll see how the dust settles. But I think from what they've done, I think there's a lot of interesting. This is a case in point. They're trying to cover up the fact that he could have been recruited by the CIA. Well,
Yeah,
stationed with him in
Oswald.
Japan. Yeah.
What else have you got down here?
There's tons. I mean,
Yeah, so like you spend so much time in the minutia of all this. I'm trying to figure out how lost I am and how relatable it is to my wife or whoever, you know. It's like, is this meaningful? What have you found that is really meaningful? Or is it like you said, it's not going to be the Ark of the Covenant. It's not going to be a light bulb moment. It's just going to be this slow revelation of, yeah, this guy was related to this guy in his actions or what in his communication. It's just kind of a slow drip. Is
well, I
any
think there's just like little pieces here that are there. There's like stuff about the Schlesinger memo where they were going to, get rid of the CIA or reform the CIA. That was from 1961. I think it was available out there elsewhere, but it's just other things that show like that gives you the context of the history behind what was going on with JFK. So there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, you can just go through. They bring up other CIA assets. There's a guy who had pre-knowledge. His name was, gosh, I can't remember now. It's he sent something and then they like tried to intimidate him. He was going to like let things know. He was going to try to inform people that he was like, there are other indicators of verified other people. There's Israeli involvement, Israeli government, um, verification of other people in other far right groups. I mean, it just goes on and on. Like it may be too technical or too for the over person. Like my introduction to somebody to understand JFK is to watch that movie by Oliver Stone. I think that's a good introduction. So it's not like the subtle nuances or things like that. And also to read The Trail of the Assassins by Jim Garrison.
Trail of the Assassins.
Yeah, that's the name of the book. So those are kind of the intro stuff.
I'll have to check that
Now
out.
he's the one who sued Shaw, who he thought was involved, which I think was correct. But he sued. I forgot his name. Was Bertrand Clay Shaw was his name. But
I'm
there's
just
like other things in here. There's a person who wrote a big long book about. She's actually strange because she knew Oswald before the assassination and Kennedy. Her name was Macmillan, but there's evidence that shows she was on the payroll of the CIA. So it's like that's very suspect.
that's
And it,
abnormal. Most people
yeah,
aren't on the payroll of the CIA. Yeah.
integrated herself with Marina Oswald. You know, other people, Norman Mailer, another guy who like suspect connections. A lot of the Israeli stuff was covered up. Underhill, who was another document, but that's one of the people who ended up dead. Like he's like, oh, something bad's happening, and then he ended up dead. um,
So many moving parts.
it's not a
It's just
new, yeah. For people who haven't studied it,
yeah.
I think maybe it's just a huge blob of information. But for people who've seen like this stuff, they know these documents.
Yeah.
They know they kind of like, okay, that's I can place this here. I know
Yeah.
this. There's like notes from like the day of the assassination, what was going on with the Foreign Intelligence Advisory Board. That's interesting. Like what they were doing when Kennedy got shot. Um, what else is there?
Let me just keep scrolling
Other
through
stuff
here.
that had been redacted. So that I was talking about church and the church committee. Like they think that he's covering up stuff, and like this is like, oh well, this is what he said, like that Morley stuff. He's like, hey, these guys are lying about this. There's also like the Archer Midlands Company as being a cover for CIA operations. That's a good one. The guy Sergei Zarona, where he says, I think that they're going to kill Kennedy in August 1963. So like a couple months before it actually happens, he was right, and then he gets harassed by the FBI and the Secret Service. So like this is another one that the public didn't know. This Zorane. Um, cables and things, and I mean, it just goes on and on. Surveys
Is
of Oswald in Mexico City.
yeah. Do you think that there will ever be an identification of the shooters and who their direct over bosses? I mean, is it ever going to get back to Bush or
I mean,
whomever?
Bush was on site. Like he's confirmed he was very close to Dallas. And there's been other people who've said they've seen him at Dallas. There's supposedly a picture of him in front of the book depository.
Yeah, they
Uh,
did like a skeletal match from
yeah,
some. It's always an Italian scientist who does that, right? But
right, something
uh,
like that. Somebody who's not from the U.S.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I think the insiders know. Like they knew who shot him, the kill teams, and all those things. Like I think there were very angry anti-Castro Cubans who were actually involved in a lot of heavy stuff over those years. They were activists and they had been kicked out of their country. And so I think, and they were angry about Bay of Pigs. A lot of their friends died. So there's a lot of like, it was a matter of blood, when your friends are dying on the beach.
yeah.
So I think that they knew. And I think that they just kept it to themselves. Like it was personal. I think those were just a personal shot when you shoot somebody in the head. It's not like I want him gone, but it's like this guy did something to me and I want to get him back for it. And I think that
And
that's
and
really
the
what.
and the manner in which they did it, so publicly, ritualistically, even maybe. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I mean, there's like King Kill 33 type stuff is in there, but it's a good point. Somebody made the point, like Salandria was one of the early lawyers who looked into it and had problems with the Warren Commission justly because they overlooked a lot of stuff. But he's like, they consciously made the decision to shoot him, like they wanted to blow him away. And so there was something about Kennedy, going back to kind of the stuff I talked about earlier, that they really didn't like was personal because he was sick and he was taking shots all the time and he had Addison's disease and he was on steroids. So he's not really a bad back. He was wearing a back brace all the time. So they could have just given him some pills and put him to sleep and he wouldn't have woke up or something. But
Yeah.
I think this was intended. It's also a expression of power. Like we can do it. So there's people who know like there's a secret force that can get rid of a president and create a coup and change history. I mean, it's really something else. It's really they had to have known. And Jim Garrison in Trail of the Assassins, he likens this case to the killing of Caesar. I think it's accurate. The killing of Caesar back in Rome, and it was like the killing of Caesar involved so many people wanted to kill Caesar. If you remember the story, it was the Ides of March, like a strange day. There's like prophecies supposedly that he's going to get killed. There's the great Shakespeare or whoever wrote Shakespeare, Julius Caesar. But
Yeah.
they all came in and dipped their blood and justified why they did it to the public. And I think that there was a figurative dipping of the blood in the death of JFK. So he's almost like a Caesar figure where everybody had to be involved because then they'd all shut up. So it's like a thing that happens with criminal cliques or mafia is you commit crimes together and then you shut up together. And I think
Wow.
there's an element there, and I think Garrison keyed into it. Brilliant guy. Jim Garrison really was an amazing human being. Like he doesn't get credited it, but like for him to stand up against these powerful forces and attempt to kind of get to push the ball down the court of what went on in those circumstances and just kind of like a DA in New Orleans without those huge resources like the Department of Defense. Like when these guys took over, like they had the full backing of the CIA and Department of Defense. Jim Garrison to go up against that and all the I mean, it's the same thing. Assassination, character assassination, intimidation. It destroyed his family. But he left a record. He left an amazing record and books. And he wasn't convinced at all. Like I mean, that's a great place to start is the Trail of the Assassins and him talking about Caesar.
Yeah,
And
for
we'll
him to
talk
make
about
that
that.
that seems like a really
Make that
poignant
correlation.
comparison.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah. And then if you look at the real history of killing of Caesar, it started off as civil war. And so a lot of people died. So there was a battle between the legacy, I think it was Mark Antony, who was the legacy of Caesar, and then the people who committed the crimes. It was Brutus and some I forgot the other guy's name, but they had this huge climactic battle for the control of the Roman Empire, the biggest empire in that area at that time. And so they had to, the people who like, if we're going to do this, if we're going to kill Kennedy, we have to prevent a civil war. We have to prevent anything going. So that's why I think they had to kill 50 or 100 people around this, is
Yeah.
because they didn't
They
want anything to steamroll out of control. And then the public would have changed everything. Right. So now we're 60, 70 years later. I can talk and not have to worry too much about getting killed because a lot of those people have passed away. So they got away with it. Their kids are around. And then, there's a lot of anti-Kennedy and there's a lot of racism involved at that time too. Like I don't think you can take that out of it. So it's not just the Bay of Pigs, but like Kennedy was, at the forefront of civil rights. And the like people who are in power who may not want to give power over to African Americans and or whatever. So that might be a significant element, and I think it is. There were people like there's researchers who found guys with KKK badges in Dallas and things like that, and at Memphis. So I think that's an aspect of these assassinations too that
yeah.
I've overlooked and other people have overlooked.
And the secret society element of the association of these men, not even limited to the KKK, but they're like the Masonic orders or Skull and Bones, right? Weren't a lot of those those industrialists, that skull and bonesmen.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
If not more than that, right? So they're associated with all kinds of affiliations. But I mean, go back and look at that famous speech that, I mean, it's really one of the most important speeches in American history, the speech that JFK gave in June at the commencement at the American University in DC. It's incredible because he's talking about we're against secrecy and secret societies and all this stuff. That's an aspect to it, in addition to we're trying to, you know, have détente and peace with the Russians. So it's like woven in this. I think he repeats peace like 50 times, like peace, 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 peace. But
yeah, and his discussion about how they wield power in the world was so revelatory.
yeah,
How they influence, how they use coercion and uh I can't remember all the language, but
I'm trying to find it right now. Let's see. Find secrecy. We're against secrecy. What does he say? Anyway, I can't find it. Maybe it was a different. Maybe it was a different speech, but I thought it was this speech.
that's probably on YouTube. It'd be cool to hear it.
Yeah.
Of course, my PC is gonna act really slowly. We'll see if it gets going in a second. Here we go. JFK, American University speech.
I don't think that's it. Maybe it's a different speech. It was somewhere in '63. Sometime in '63.
JFK speech. I'll just say Secret Society speech. Secret Society speech, short version. First, we get to hear an ad. Here we go.
Yeah, there it is. I don't know where he gave that speech. It was 1961, April 27th, 1961.
Those words, in light of how his assassination has been handled, they defy the very way that this has been disclosed to us. They they defy the actions of our government in concealing the truth.
Yeah.
It's like I just it's hard to get your mind around it.
It's not believable. It's not believable. But I think that you have to understand these guys are all intel people. CIA operates in intel, so it's hard for people to penetrate intentionally past the wall of secrecy. Like it's a hall of mirrors, just like Angleton said. Like a wilderness of mirrors is a famous Angleton phrase.
Wow. What
Yes, that's
are there any more pages in here that you really want to
not
address?
really. I mean, I think I kind of went over everything. I mean, if
Yeah.
we're doing kind of a general overview, I think that people, you can repost those if you want, but I would recommend certain people. Clandestine is one, Solving JFK, Jefferson Morley, Joseph McBride. These are kind of old school researchers. Really great podcast, Solving JFK by Crumpton, who was right behind Jim DiEugenio at this meeting on April 1st, 2025. So these are all like people you can go to that, and JFK Files, I believe, is Morley's group. But You can learn so. There's a lot to learn. I think that's part of its fascination is because you can spend a lifetime trying to figure out and put all these pieces together, all these powerful families and all the intel stuff. Like it's really for people who aren't in intelligence, it has to be fascinating to see how these intelligence operatives work.
And Morley is
Jefferson
you've
Morley,
you've interviewed him a number
five
of
times.
times,
Yeah, 5 times.
and he was on the task
He was
force or
he was on the commission, the hearing that they had. So they
the hearing.
released
Yeah.
the documents on the 18th, and then on April 1st, 2005, they had a hearing that included Jefferson Morley, Oliver Stone, of the director, and Jim DiEugenio, and then another guy from, I think he was from like the digital, forgot what it was. He had some of the thing, but it was they let them talk, which is good. I think the presentations when the when the Congress people talked, I'm not sure how much value there was in that, but um, it was pretty cool. So, but I mean, I think that it's not even the transparency. It's the fact that these documents just got dropped to the public is like the best sign. There's no seeming intermediary, or you don't know what happened behind the scenes, whether they've edited them or taken stuff out. But I think that there doesn't seem to be any evidence of that, which is cool.
Okay. Do you anticipate a time where the government will eventually apologize for the role that they played in this? Or
I wouldn't expect it, but you never know. You really don't. Um, the people who did this aren't around. Their kids may be around, but I don't think that they'll. I don't think they were that sorry for it. Like I really think that
yeah.
they probably thought that JFK deserved it.
Well, you called it a coup, right?
Yeah,
And
I mean, I
then
think it's cool.
a new administration and a new, I mean, are they still in power? Why would they have relented power?
Good point. Like I think there's a competitive aspect to it. Like I said, like the right is in competition with the left. The Kennedys at that time still probably this today, which is strange. Like RFK kind of flipped over, but they were always associated with the Democrats. So I think that that's part of it. Like, hey, if we these are our competitors, let's get rid of Darwinian competition. Let's just get rid of them, and we can run the country the way we want it for generations.
Yeah. Is that fascism?
Something like it. I don't know if it's a direct definition of fascism. I would say it's closer to like a hereditary monarchy or hereditary aristocracy or something like that.
So I've been playing with Grok. Have you gotten
Yeah,
into any
I
of this AI stuff?
it does a pretty good job. I mean, I would say it's pretty good. It's better than GPT.
I use it for different things. I had it help me decide which where in California to plan my birthday surfing trip and stuff. It's very knowledgeable. Um, and I'm trying to figure out how it sources all its information and how much of it is programming. But I asked this question. Can you run a covariance on the associations Douglas made in his book and determine the strength of his arguments? Right? So I earlier on I had asked it, who's implicated in JFK unspeakable? Summarize, please, right?
Right.
Which it did a good job of doing, right? So just the CIA, military leaders, Oswald, anti-Castro, unnamed unspeakable forces, right? Um, and then it summarizes. It's pretty impressive. And then I asked it to basically statistically analyze the strength of those arguments, which it really goes into detail um, on each point. And then conclusion. Douglas's associations have moderate strength, robust on motive, weak on direct evidence. Right, so no smoking gun or whatever, but um, I thought that was really interesting. The evidence leans towards a conspiracy involving multiple entities. Official findings maintain ambiguity, leaving room for debate as of today. That's a grok.
It doesn't Grok doesn't have access to the texts of some of those books. I mean,
Right.
maybe it does, but I can tell like some of the books just aren't in the public domain, so they don't have them to reference stuff. But
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It would have to be something that's on the web, that's searchable on the web, right?
I think so.
So as far as the science, like what are we hungry for as the public? We want a bad guy. That's pretty much comes naturally to us. We want to be able to say this person did it and they need to be held accountable. But it kind of sounds like you don't think we're ever going to get that.
No way. No
Yeah.
way. There was a lot. The stakes were very high back then too. I mean, we're at the Cold War. There's a missile crisis. We could all get nuked. So I think it
Yeah.
has to be seen in that context where people were like, "This is life and death, man." So I think that they can justify what they did for that reason. Like, hey, we almost got turned into a
National security. Yeah.
yeah radioactive fallout, and we're up against these communists who really want to impose their will on our freedoms, and so I think they can justify that and justify what it took to cover it up. And they all knew, like he had to go. Like we couldn't wait for him to make another bad decision or whatever. So
I would just bring his words forward into this time. Like you said at the beginning, it couldn't be more relevant to our current times. You know,
right,
Th- Even today, there's little value in ensuring our survival if the traditions that our country was built on don't survive, right? But I kind of feel like you do, I think, in that those traditions are long dead. We aren't the free country
no way.
that we once were.
No, not with constant surveillance, high taxes where they're stealing your money. Like you pay taxes so they can offshore your funds. Like everybody's got offshore accounts and secret NGOs that are laundering it through. It's a joke. It's a total kleptocracy. So, like, why do you even pay taxes? Honestly, like people that I mean, they obviously don't want to read how bad the billion, hundreds of billions are missing because they'll question the fundamentals of why we have a country. It's that bad. So, yeah, we're way past that. And for people who are doing the thinking and researching, who know that there's billions, I mean, there's billions of dollars. But there's like 30 in California, they've wasted like 80 or 90 billions for a rail project that nothing's happened. Like, where'd that money go?
Yeah,
Where did it go?
It's like Rumsfeld, like a couple days after 9/11.
Right.
By the way, we lost $4 billion or what?
It was the day before
Oh, it was the day
$2.3
before.
trillion. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
They just wiped that off the ledger. Great. So I mean, these are like you don't know what's going on with the Department of Defense. That's why other people are howling for. I think Musk said he had 17,000 death threats. Like he's going to have to look over his shoulder the rest of his life because he exposed the corruption. That's why nothing gets done. That's why your roads have potholes here in California. It's like a third world country, man. Like you got to drive. Like where's the pothole? Ooh, whoa. Like it's a joke. Everybody's living on the streets. Like these people have the lowest expectations imaginable. So yeah, we're the land of the free and home of the brave. They don't. You're deluding yourself. You're under a great delusion if you think that's really the country. Give me a break. That makes me nauseated. Such a joke.
So you approach content like this almost as a hobbyist because it's not with the intention that it's going to be course corrected, right? It's just how much can we expose, how much can be gleaned about the truth, and then you share it. But no real change is going to come. There's not going to be accountability because they're not going to allow it. The coup
If right,
happened.
right, no question. But I mean, I think in the larger sense, this desire for the truth shall set you free. I think that's crucial. So we want to know the truth. Like typically, like I come from the right, I suppose. They would be the ones who cover it up because they know that they killed this leftist communist sympathizer or whatever, right? But I would just want to know the truth. So if we know the truth on all these other subjects, whether it's whatever, without a lens of left or right or Republican or Democrat, it'll facilitate change because it'll change the culture and also what people will put up with. They know their leaders can be assassinated. they can steal all your money, if they can start these wars. We're literally at war with no declaration of war with Russia. Like, people have to realize that. They have to be told the truth. I think my voice is going out.
How can we demand the truth? Is there anything to be done? Like I can't think of anything better than just if I imagine the perfect scenario for this current administration, not that I have any hope in them, but just what I wish would just be sort of that passive public demand for truth, an acknowledgement of the lies and just a persistent daily reminder to the people who you serve. And I guess I'm talking, about Bobby Kennedy again. You know, who could better represent this cause than him?
Good point. Like, it personally affected him. But I think that you can see positive changes have already happened. Is the alternate media, even though it was a small kind of thing maybe 10 years ago. Now it is the media, but they destroyed the mass media. Like, there's nobody watching TV, nobody intelligence watching TV news. And like, they couldn't sell CNN for $1. Like, that's how that it's like that much in the red. Like, nobody wants it. It's a giant, colossal, ever-sized piece of manure. And nobody watches it, and their listenership is super low. So people have moved to where they're getting the truth. And I mean, just by making that choice, like, hey, I can do this, or this is not working, I'm not going to do this, whole edifices have collapsed. And that's a good thing.
Yeah. Let's end on this.
All right. That's the positive. Work with your feet, spend your money. Don't give money to people who are doing a genocide in the Middle East. Don't give people who support killing little kids in the Middle East. So if you find a company that is pro child murder, don't do it. Don't
Yeah.
go on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, this guy is facilitating child rape on Facebook. Like, there's people who've been abused. They've had another hearing. Nobody covers it. So I guess it's not happening. So you can feel good by your kind of matrix like availability. But there's all kinds of dark stuff happening on Facebook. Don't go on Facebook. Go somewhere else. Go operate with your money. Put your money into good causes. Go buy some land.
They're
You
still
don't
going to
have to.
take what they need from our in the form of taxes, though, right? Because
And
they're all
inflation,
subsidized.
they've inflated the crap out of our money. They've already stolen from us. The
Yeah.
American people are not brave, and they're not free because they've
Yeah.
just been robbed, like literally robbed through inflation and misspending on some stupid war. Nobody benefits from here other than facilitates your enslavement. So do something, take action, do something positive with long-term ramifications, and stop supporting these institutions and groups and companies that hate your guts and are involved in dark evil stuff. Stop it. That's my message.
That sounds like a great place to begin. A good way to put our feet to the pavement there. Yeah, I'm not even aware of the stuff happening on Facebook. I'm
Yeah, you're
glad.
not supposed to. Yeah, it's bad. It's
But
very dark. Go look at the hearing of Zuckerberg, and he's like, "Oh, he got caught. I'm sorry, I got caught." That's what it looked like to me. Like, I think he knows what's going on there, and they know they're censoring, and they don't believe in the basic premises of freedom and freedom of speech. Like, come on, man, this guy's a clown. These guys are bad people, and I stop supporting bad people. That's all. I mean, put your money, dump somebody's doing something good.
amen.
Amen.
Okay,
All right, peace.
let's put a bow on this.
All right.
Three people, three human beings, three people who we can say these guys are largely responsible for the murder of John F. Kennedy.
Dulles, for sure. Maybe Hunt and David Ferry, maybe. All these guys, yeah. Big
They,
no.
E. Howard Hunt.
Yeah, Everett Howard Hunt, yeah.
Is
Head of
that the
operations for CIA.
okay?
Domestic operations where they're not supposed to be legally operating domestically.
Okay. Yeah, there's three bad guys. That it just, it helps to have a name.
It's a group, yeah. It's
Yeah.
just a big group. It's like the killing of Caesar, there's like a big group who decided to do it. and they all probably all benefited one way or the other, whether it's financially or taking out your competition and stuff like that. So it's a
And again,
shame.
to summarize the current disclosure, it's helpful, but it's not world shaking. It's not going to provide, no one's going to be outed. Uh,
That hasn't
basically,
been outed already.
yeah,
I mean, I think it just validates a lot of the other research that's been going out. So it's just like I said, more pieces of the puzzle is always a good thing. So you can put other places and times in place, and I think it's also good because it keeps JFK's assassination in the news, so people are still interested in. Maybe people will come across Morley's work or D. Eugenia's work, or look at the stuff that I think Stone did another documentary called JFK Revisited, which I haven't seen. So maybe they'll see this and go, "Hey, this story doesn't make any sense. The story we're told of Oswald as a lone shooter and a disgruntled guy is fiction."
yeah. And they'll look into your work. You do a lot of great work.
Thanks.
Appreciate you,
I
William.
got a lot. Thanks. I got a lot. I got a lot of episodes, 5 books, 5 documentaries on Patreon. So, and I'm posting a lot of my stuff on Patreon, so there's no ads. So people, that's my biggest gripe, other than lousy audio, is they have to put up with ads from Spotify or Spreaker or something like that. I don't have any control over it, but the way around that is to sign up for my Patreon at William Ramsey Investigates.
There you go. Or there's just the fast forward button. Just hit the forward 30-second button and then home in where you need to. It's
Very
not that
true.
big a
There's
deal.
other ways around it. There's
Yeah.
other ways.
No, support Williams advertisers for sure, right?
Yeah,
Um,
why not? I actually was a host read ad for HelloFresh. I became a user and I actually really like it. I'm not kidding. Like, it's easy for me and my family, like when we get a thing that we can cook all the stuff, we don't have to go to the store and get any ingredients or something's missing. When it's all right there, you get a home cooked meal that tastes like a home cooked meal, not like something from a fast food restaurant where you wonder how much of this beef is actually beef or what's irradiated or whatever. So
this is
I
like
was
the
really
one pot thing where they send you the ingredients and you kind of
Yeah, no, it's
mix them
it's
together
legit.
there.
There's a lot. Apparently, there's a lot of competition for this. So like, there's like 5 or 10 home cooked meals competitors out there, and HelloFresh is one. But that's the one I tried, and I really liked it, so I recommend them. And
I'll give it a try.
you can use my code William Ramsey. Just put it right there. HelloFresh William Ramsey. You get like 10 boxes free or something like that. You
Oh,
get a
heck
good
yeah.
deal. You get a lot of food free. You might as well try it just to get some free food. Why not these days? You've been
That's-
the inflation's so bad.
You've got me interested. I'm going to check it out.
Yeah, check it out.
And
Till
thanks
next
again.
time. Yeah, my
Yeah.
pleasure.
All right.
Tanner, take care. Have a great day.
You too, William.
Peace.
Bye
Peace.
bye.